South Florida's waterways are a sanctuary for wildlife and a crucial part of the local economy, but pollution is threatening this fragile ecosystem. So Tommy, where are we right now?
We're at Pelican Harbor Marina. That's our docks behind us. This is actually the site of where the fish kill really happened. The first time in 2020, I mean, it just took me by surprise. I had mixed emotions in me because one, I was so excited to see so much sea life that was still in the bay that I didn't think existed anymore. And at the same time, I was so heartbroken because, you know, they were gasping for air at the surface right on the shoreline.
For Tommy Saleh, manager at Pelican Harbor Marina, the 2020 fish kill was devastating. But pollution's impact goes beyond the water. It threatens the hundreds of people who rely on the marina every day. How many members are there here at Pelican Harbor? How many boats do you have out here?
We have 130 full-time, so they're year-round customers.
And then how many employees?
18 employees we have.
So we talked about earlier the long-term effects. If for some reason, because the pollution became so bad, you guys would have to close for an extended period of time, it would affect about 150 people just in this harbor alone?
Oh, for sure, and that's not even counting the people who launch their boat at the boat ramp. So they live somewhere else, they store their boat somewhere else. We could have anywhere from 300 to 500 people on a weekend come out.
For those who depend on the bay like local fishermen, the impact of pollution affects more than just the environment. It disrupts both lives and livelihoods.
I've been fishing for like 8 years now, since I was little, with my dad. When there's a lot of trash in the ocean, fish get tangled and then they can't swim very well. We fish for fun, but my dad sometimes fishes to eat. When we miss out on a meal, that means that there's probably the fish has really bad meat or has a lot of bacteria inside it. You see that the meat is bad.
For fishermen like Alvaro, the community's lack of care is frustrating, as it directly impacts their ability to fish and provide for their families.
People don't care about the ocean. They just
get tangled and just cut it and let the line.
And they throw the trash. They throw beer, cans, bags, everything.
The environmental cost of water pollution doesn't end with visible trash. Subtle yet dangerous changes in water quality also contribute to the bay's troubles, as explained by marine biologist Dr. Alastair Harborne.
Water quality is one of the many threats that faces the coral reefs of Florida, so along with increased temperature that leads to coral bleaching, disease, overfishing. Water pollution is something, and obviously water pollution is a very broad topic. It's everything from chemicals to sewage to nutrients, and so all of those things can be detrimental to coral reef health.
Runoff and pollution don't just affect reefs. They also impact the waters that Tommy and Pelican Harbor Marina rely on every day.
The water is very hot. When we get runoffs from the rains, they go into our canals, a lot of our drainage canals, a lot of our little rivers that we have here. They'll get the storm drain incursion in there, and that decreases the amount of oxygen that's in the water, and that's what's really leading to these fish kills. So I think people need to be more aware of their actions away from the bay that's sort of going into the drains and then coming out into the bay, which is where we're really seeing it happen.
To see the impact firsthand, I met Biscayne, an oceanic videographer turned environmental advocate, who showed us the pollution threatening these waters. So you had pointed out that piece of styrofoam over there. That seems massive to me. I don't even know how that accidentally gets in there. What is your deduction? How does that get there?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's some sort of packaging for some sort of technology, like a speaker or some sort of TV item. That can end up in the ocean fairly easily. Someone may have brought it onto a boat, and when they were driving, it flew off the back.
Thale shifted his focus from photographing wildlife to tackling the pollution that was invading their habitat.
I started noticing all the garbage that was cluttering this environment that the animals lived in, basically. And I started shifting my focus away from the organism to the trash that was in the organism's world, right? Because it was harder to find the animal than it was to find the trash.
Oceana estimates that 33 billion pounds of plastic enter the ocean every year, but Thale warns that it's hurting more than just our waters.
It can get passed along to different organisms that we end up eating, like mahi-mahi or tuna. Throughout the food chain process, say a minnow eats a piece of plastic, the minnow gets eaten by a larger fish, the larger fish eats that fish, tuna eats that fish. It'll actually get 4 times the amount of toxins in the tuna, and we'll end up getting that repercussion. That's where plastics can become an issue in our bodies.
So carelessness or our lack of awareness when it comes to trash just ending up in the ocean could end up coming right back to harm us, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It's a self-inflicted wound at the end of the day.
Dr. Harborne further explained this trickle-down effect, where plastics don't just pollute the water, they accumulate up the food chain, concentrating toxins in the fish that we eat.
You know, most fish are not eating a whole styrofoam cup or a plastic soda bottle, but when that plastic degrades, it breaks down into these small fragments that can kind of get incorporated into a fish's diet. Either it's in the thing that they eat or they're picking it up. That's how it kind of accumulates, and so that we have this problem of what we call bioaccumulation, so that if the bottom of the food web eats those microplastics a little bit, then the thing above it is eating lots of those things, and as you go up the pyramid, you're kind of concentrating those plastics.
But the motherlode of trash came from the Miami Marine Stadium Basin, a problem area we featured several times this year. Volunteers from Send It for the Sea picking up more than 2,000 pounds of garbage.
The problem's not only not going away, it's getting much worse.
That's Louis Aguirre, an Emmy Award-winning journalist and South Florida native who's been a trusted voice in the community for over 3 decades. As the host of WPLG's Don't Trash Our Treasure, he's become a leading advocate for protecting our environment.
Without using hyperbole, our bay is dying. We're at a dangerous tipping point right now where we have to fix all of the pollution sources that are impacting the bay as urgently as possible. Well, there's just too many people and we haven't upgraded our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is failing. Plastics and trash into the environment, not realizing that whatever we throw onto the streets, eventually, because we're all connected by water here, we have this intricate system of canals, all goes into the water, all those canals dump out into the bay. So unless we cut back on all those sources of pollution, we're in big trouble.
But as Tommy Saleh points out, the threat is not just environmental.
How much do you worry about water pollution? Is it something you think about regularly?
Oh yeah, when we, every year we do our business reviews and we do, SWOT analysis. That's always the number one thing is the environment, water pollution, sea level rise, and how it's going to affect us down the road.
What does the SWOT report tell you?
Well, it tells us that it's a threat outside of our control, but there's things we can do in our control to kind of combat it. And one of it is our engagement with the public. We host monthly cleanups. We've been doing it since 2014. We partner with our vendors to do them.
Right now, there are 171 trillion particles of plastic in the ocean right now. That's more plastic in the ocean than there are stars in the Milky Way. That is unheard of. Our plastic production is supposed to quadruple in the next 30 years. We can't handle the plastic that we have right now. Recycling is broken. Less than 9% of all global plastics are ever recycled. We have to get smart about this. We have to, again, put the environment before the economy. We cannot continue this way. It is death by 1,000 cuts.
As Aguirre points out, the overwhelming scale of plastic pollution is something we cannot ignore. Alvaro, our young fisherman, agrees.
I would like to keep the ocean clean and everything clean so that fish could still be healthy and for people to catch and eat.
Long term, if you guys were forced to close or you weren't able to offer services because of water pollution and how dense it is, what would that do to Pelican Harbor?
Oh, it would almost make it obsolete. It would just be, a place where you couldn't really interact with anything. You'd just be looking at it, I mean, the whole point of coming out here is it's a public site for the public to access the bay. It's something that we don't have a lot of in South Florida. There's many, many homes on the water, but they're private. This is one of the few public places you could access it. And if we have to close down because of the conditions, yeah, it'll be devastating.
The fate of our waters is in our hands. Without change, our oceans and the communities that rely on it could fade away, leaving nothing but a memory of our beautiful bay.